Welcome to Real Estate 360, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Mike D'Ambrosio, will provide you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate, and much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. This is Mike D'Ambrosio with Real Estate 360 Radio. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We are talking anything and everything real estate, providing you great information and education on real estate. That's what we love to do. We have a great show in store for you today. We will introduce our guests in just a couple of minutes, but just a reminder for those of you just tuning in, there's a couple of different ways you can listen to our show. That is on the radio at KDOW 1220 AM. You can also listen to us live online at kdow.biz. KDOW has an app, so go to the App Store and download it today. It's a really, really nice app, actually, and helps you listen to us anywhere and everywhere, which is a good thing. So log in your App Store and download today. We come to you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. I'm on Mondays. We also are a live show, so we love to hear your questions and your phone calls. And if you'd like to chime in, give us a call anytime. It's 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. We love to hear your suggestions on future topics, guests, and content that you desire. We're here for you guys. Finally, if you miss any shows or want to sign up for updates, visit our website at RE360radio.com. I do have the winner of the question last week. What was the index that the real estate market in the Bay Area follows closely? The answer was the S&P 500, and the winner today is Sam. Sam is going to win a pizza certificate to Giorgio's and Frankie, Johnny, and Luigi's, our sponsor. So, Sam, congratulations. So, all right, let's get into it. Today, I'm really excited to have Steve Stefanik with In-House Coach. We're going to be talking your mindset, getting your mindset ready for success in 2014 in real estate. Steve, welcome in.
Hey, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come in and meet with you at this time.
You're welcome. So Steve is he's a life coach. He owns In-House Coach. He also has real estate experience. He worked at Alon Pinnell Realtors for 8 years and then transitioned into the corporate world working at Palm and Motorola for about 10 years. And then now, for the last 10 years, he's owned his own coaching business, In-House Coach. So it's really good to have you on the show today.
Great. You know, I think the timing of the show is perfect for the type of work I do. You know, I'm all about helping people move through life transitions. And at the end of the year, you get an opportunity to do some reflection, right? And so mostly when I work with my clients, I talk to them about the different styles of reflection that you can take place right around now. You know, looking at the past is one great way to do this. But in addition, make an assessment of where you're at today, right? And then the third, of course, is to set up your goals and visions. And, you know, in this work that we're going to be talking about today, it's really all about your real estate vision for 2014. And I'm not a realtor today. I have been in the past, as Mike has mentioned, but
you were smart and got out, right?
Yeah, I got out. No, actually, I went, I was very excited about real estate at the time, but I decided to move into the corporate world and really learn the big game of business.
Right.
So where we're at now is today we're going to be talking a little bit about our goals in 2014, but more from the mindset that you bring to the table.
Right.
With anything, as whether you're in the corporate job or, dealing in a relationship or buying real estate, what you bring to the table matters, right? And so we're going to be really talking about what I call as mental minefields and ways to avoid them in real estate. Second area, we're going to be going into some of the common anxieties, the things that kind of can keep you up at night, and how to really deal with those. We if we have time, and again, this is kind of a short program, but we're also going to be talking about some of the 7 effective tools to support you through this process. And finally, we're going to give you some actions that you can take today, really to help you kind of guide you in this process of buying real estate in 2000 or selling real estate in 2014.
Right. Well, we got a ton of content to get to, so let's try to fit it all in. Let's go to the first topic you mentioned in the beginning, the mental minefields. This is really interesting, topic, I'm sure people think here mental minefields. What is he talking about? But why don't you explain a little bit what you mean by mental minefields? What kind of mental minefields you can get into, in real estate, and then how we can overcome them.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. So yeah, these mental minefields. I kind of coined the term there that there's these mines that you can step on in your mind that actually can cause some havoc, some major havoc in the in your real estate transaction. So what we're going to talk about is about 5 of these that I've pulled out, and there's many more that you can encounter, but these are 5 of the common ones. And the first one we're going to talk about is money. So everybody has a different story about money, and if we're not clear on how we perceive money,
Right.
we're going to have a very difficult transaction.
Right.
There's different cultures that buy real estate here in the Bay Area. There's different practices that each of us have been raised with by our family of how to deal with money.
Right.
Whether we're really conservative with it or are very flamboyant with it. We have different values around it. These are all stories that we carry in our head that can be landmines when we get into a serious situation of buying some real estate in this area.
Right.
What's the average price of the home in the Bay Area?
In about mid-7s.
Yeah, so we're talking, close to $1 million there to purchase real estate. And, when we start getting into those mental minefields called money, they can really blow up on us.
Do you think that one of the biggest ways to overcome this is actually, I think we're talking about even with your partner or your spouse, having that conversation ahead of time to make sure you guys are on the same page, moving forward. Whereas let's say you got into a transaction, I've been through this before, right? Where, you have a couple that maybe haven't discussed everything up front, and you get into a transaction and then there's a lot of difficulty, right? So do you think that's a big part of what you're talking about in this?
Yeah, one way to really stay, and one of the conversations we're going to talk about throughout the day is to stay centered. Stay centered in the process. What that means is that you get triggered into different areas that can throw you off. And as I said, money is one of the big minefields that you might step on. And your relationships that you have in terms of who's buying and who's selling, who's in charge of getting the money,
right?
Those all can lead to some serious stuff. So having good conversations up front about what we can afford, and there's lenders, as you can probably refer out to them, that can help them really sort through that money conversation. But more importantly is to sort through, what is my common sense about money?
Right.
What is her common sense about money? And how do we come together in a way that we can be effective in a difficult negotiation situation?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's really good. Okay, let's go to the next one. So are we doing the right thing? Buyers and sellers remorse. And we always hear about this, buyers and sellers remorse.
Yes.
So, when a buyer goes into contract and then maybe they close a transaction and they think, oh God, maybe I paid too much, or a seller feels like they sold for too little, so talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of the big things that we always can run into. And again, if you haven't bought a house before, you've probably experienced this when you bought your first car. You get in there, you buy the car, and you just wonder, geez, did I do the right thing, right? And so part of one of the things to think about here, again, is getting clear on why you're purchasing a house. There's so many different reasons that people purchase houses nowadays. Investment is one story,
right?
But I'm buying myself a home. I want to expand my family. I got a new job or promotion. I want status in a community. It goes on and on and on. So when you can get down to that level of really determining why you're going to buy, then when you run into this big mind that will blow up on you if you don't have those clear answers. So the advice is to really get clear on your story.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people go into it, just thinking, oh, I'm going to go, I want to buy a house, or I want to go, I want to sell my property and move elsewhere. And they really don't take the time, as much as it kind of sounds, a little crazy. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of someone's money here, right? And if you don't take the time to sit down and think it out, whether it's with your wife or your husband, or your spouse, whether it's with your realtor, your CPA, you got to really take the time and make sure that you're thinking this through and making the right decision, and you're not making irrational decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget the kids. If you do have kids are an important part of this equation, and sometimes we leave them out, and there's some suffering that can happen at that level. And again, as a life coach, I'm not talking to you about how you're going to purchase the house to be more effective at, getting the right price. I'm really talking about how do you keep your family together? How do you keep your relationship together? Right. There's a lot of challenges that can happen in the midst of this big transition.
Right. Well, speaking of kids, no, I'm just kidding. Peer pressure.
Yeah, that's right.
Kids go through peer pressure, but I think adults go through peer pressure too, right?
That's right.
So your next point was peer pressure. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. As Mike mentioned, I did sell real estate back in the 90s, and one of the things that I would always run across is that when we got someone into a killer deal, what would happen is that they would, inevitably, of course, tell their family and their friends and everybody. And then I would always get that call. Did I do the right thing? They're
Right.
telling me that it's not the right time of the market, or I spent too much, or why? One of the conversations that you have to be really clear on is that people are going to have their 10 cents that they're going to give you, right?
Of course.
And you got to be able to say, okay, I accept their interpretation there, but this is my life. This is what I do. And again, what I advise here is learn how to take a stand. So get very clear on what you want and be able to take a stand in the world in a way that, when people come in and try to push you off your decision, you know how to say, you know what, I appreciate your opinion, but really it's not going to help me out here.
Right.
Also, if you're not a good person at taking a stand, you might elect not to tell people about it. So until the transaction's done.
Right.
And again, real estate is a long-term investment. If you're in it for the short game, and there are some flippers out there that do that, but you're in it most people are in it for the long term. And in the long term, it's always a good investment.
Right.
The tax advantages, you're building your identity, your family, your community. And then also, in California, you've always seen appreciation as well. So let that peer pressure hit you, but let it slide right off your back.
Okay. Number 4, I know what is best. So let's talk about that. You're smart, educated, and successful, but it's like a doctor that's operating on themselves and not, or say it.
It's all right. So Mike was reading off this little tagline I have here, but part of what we run into is that we're dealing with some highly educated people as realtors in the valley, right? And you, the listener, are saying, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm making the kind of money to afford a $700,000, $1 million, or even a $2 million house.
Right.
Why shouldn't I call the shots? And what happens is it's kind of like a doctor performing surgery on himself.
There you go.
That's not a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Because of the pain and the emotion and the stress that can happen in the midst of that surgery.
Or also like a realtor that's trying, buying or selling a house themselves too. It's the same thing.
As realtors, you're advised by your broker
Right.
not to do your own transaction for that reason.
Right.
So the best thing to hear is to realize that you are going to be triggered by your pride, your emotions, your ego, your status.
Right.
But at the same time, you got to enlist powerful professionals like yourself, Mike, to support you in this transaction, because you cannot see clearly because of the emotional stress that's brought upon you.
Definitely. And everything has to be perfect.
So this is the last mental minefield, and we're running out of time here before our first break.
Well, let's get back to that on the other side. I'm going to have to stop because we got to take a break. You're listening to RE360 Radio on KDOW AM 1220. Check in with us at 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. We'll be back with you in just a couple minutes on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back. This is Mike D'Ambrosio on RE360 Radio, KDOW AM 1220. We are talking live in studio today with Steve Stefanik of In-House Coach. We're talking getting your mindset right for your real estate in 2014. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, give us a call at 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220. We'd love to hear from our audience. And Steve is a wealth of knowledge, and you can tell in his delivery of what we're talking about today and how much content we have to go over. So let's get right into it, because we do have a lot to go through. Let's finish up that last mental minefields point of everything has to be perfect, right?
Yeah, so one of the things, thank you, Mike, one of the things about real estate is that you are buying a home that's 50 years old. Sometimes in the valley here, you do find some new developments, but most of the stuff is 50, 60, even 100 years old in some of the different areas like Los Gatos. But it's, you have to set the right expectations in your mind about what you're dealing with here. There's going to be some complications that happen in an older home.
Right.
there are teams that you have to work with of about 20 people, honestly, not just the realtors, but there's inspectors and lenders and
escrow, title, all that.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And so things do go wrong.
Yeah.
It's not like you're buying a new piece of clothing at Macy's, right? It's a different process, right? And then, as I said earlier, to bring in the emotions really kind of confuse it. So, again, sometimes we want everything to go smoothly in these transactions, but they don't. So the advice is really know your history and how you get triggered by certain things.
Right.
Empower people around you to be able to recover you so you can stay focused on what the end goal is really find that home for you.
That's great. No, really, that's a good point. Let's get into the next segment you wanted to talk about, common anxieties of buying or selling real estate. This is always everyone's favorite topic to talk about, but let's get into it. So the number one, we wanted to talk about was picking an agent, and we've talked about this on the show before. We did the top 10 reasons on how to, on why and how to pick an agent, and it was a fun show because we got a lot of callers on it, and people had their own opinions, and it's a big decision because this person is going to be guiding you through spending or selling hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money. So it's an important decision of picking an agent. So maybe talk a little bit about what anxieties people might have on that.
Yeah, so the piece about picking an agent, like you said, you're kind of empowering someone to really set up your home, right? And the home is such an emotional space, and that's why some of those minefields are so powerful and triggering us. But in picking an agent, we really want to look at one distinction, and I'm going to open up a coaching distinction called trust. Yeah. So, and you and I have worked on this. Mike has been a client of mine for a while. And, one of the distinctions we introduced was trust. And trust is twofold. One is you have to be competent. So you're looking for someone that's competent. You can look for credentials and all those things that really represent competent. But the key part, especially in real estate, and I think this is why a lot of people shy away from sales professionals in general, is what we call the second piece of trust is sincerity.
Right.
Does the person care about me?
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
And in that, if you can find someone that's competent and they put your interests first, then you can trust them, and that's when you can start to release some of those minefields that we talked about earlier, right? So trust is a key thing.
Right. Okay. Is this the right time to buy? This is the next common anxiety that people often face. Am I doing it the right time now, or do I wait? So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's so many anxieties that can pop up in this area, right? Because of the news, because of your peer pressure, because of maybe possibly your money conversations. These all can trigger you in a way that can cause a lot of anxiety. Again, we're going back to, for the sake of what? Why are you in this process in the first place? And when you get these triggers like this, like, am I making the wrong decision? You can always go back to that foundation story that put you in the process of buying in the first place.
Right. You always have that to fall back on.
And I think a lot of people can lose that easily.
Yeah.
So having a competent agent around you that cares about you and knows your story, right, that you trust, that can help you stay grounded in the midst of, is this the right time to buy?
Yeah. And going back to the agent thing, honestly, I think it's so true because you want someone that cares about you and that, salespeople aren't always just out for, they shouldn't always, they have to support their family and they're out to, this is their living they make, right? But I think when really good salespeople are good at their job, they're not only out to support their own family, but they're also out to, in your best interest, right? And what ends up happening is if you're working for your client in their best interest, it ends up coming back to you in the end anyways.
Exactly.
So
and that's your referrals and that kind of stuff. So again, in picking an agent, you probably found this out in your last show, listening to what your friends are saying, the ones that had successful transactions, the one that got what they wanted and were taken care of during the process.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to have to stop because we're going to have to take a quick break. You are listening to RE360 Radio on KDOW AM 1220. Check in with us at 1-800-516-1220. We're going to be right back in just a couple of minutes on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back. This is Mike D'Ambrosio on RE360 Radio, KDOW AM 1220. We are talking live in studio today with Steve Stefanik of In-House Coach. We're talking 2014 real estate, getting your mindset ready for 2014. It's always a fun topic to talk about the future. We'd love to hear from you. Steve would love to hear from you. He's good at fielding questions and answers and calls and all that good stuff at 1-800-516-1220. 1-800-516-1220. I know a lot of times when you and I used to, meet and be like, all right, what do you got for me today? And I'd give you a bunch of stuff that's going on, and you just fire back all this good information. So Steve's really good at that if you have any questions for him. So
thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Let's get right into it. Okay, so let's go to the next segment. Let's go 7 effective tools to support you through the process. Let's try to get through all these, but I know there's a couple you really wanted to focus on. So the number 1 is creating your personal vision and plan for the project, that being buying or selling real estate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of get into real estate because it is an emotional thing, because it's not as much business for whatever reason. They don't spend the time to really sit down and plan out what they want, create the vision of what they want to get, and really then put the milestones in place, just like a business contract that will keep you on track. And I strongly recommend putting a deadline or a get done date. Yeah. Because if you don't have that, I've seen some clients in the past, work with realtors for years. Right. Work with clients for years. So it's important that you get very clear on your vision, your plan, and put some dates and milestones in there.
I think it's important you communicate that to the people you're working with as well, so everyone's on the same page.
Exactly.
For example, if I had a client say, hey, look, I need to be in a property by May, okay? It's going to happen. It's just a matter of setting those boundaries and making sure that your goals are met. And if someone's not meeting those needs, then it's probably time for you to move on.
Exactly. The next effective tool that I want to bring up, and this deals, I'm a somatic coach, and so I work with people not only from their conversation, but what I call their shape or their body. So your your experiences create a shape in who you are. And so in real estate, that gets triggered quite a bit.
Right.
Your past experiences show up when you're in the midst of a negotiation. Your past experiences show up when you look at that house and you go, I don't know why I love it, but I love it.
Right.
Those
maybe
are
because they have cookies baking in the oven or something.
Maybe. Mom's cookies always got you excited about what home is, right? But we look at an area, what we call is build awareness. So awareness of when you get triggered, right? We talked about the mindsets and the anxieties, or minefields and the anxieties that show up. But when you get triggered, you want to look to 3 different areas to help yourself recenter. The first one is your stories. Like, how are you talking about this situation? Does this absolutely suck, or is it really bad? Mm-hmm. Versus, this is challenging, but we're going to get through it.
Right.
So your language says a lot. The second is to look at your focus. A lot of people will focus on the wrong thing. If you're driving a speeds car or a sports car and you take a turn and you go out of control and you focus on the wall, you're going to hit the wall. And they're trained to focus not on the wall. Same applies when you're buying a house. Focus on what you really want, your dream house, not the anxiety and the minefields. Right. And the last thing that you want to look at is the body. So sometimes we get triggered and our shoulders will hunch over and our brow will start to wrinkle, and all of a sudden we're in this bad space. You got to start paying attention to, when you're in these emotional thing called buying a home, pay attention to how your body's showing up. And you can realign yourself by just simple deep breaths, right? And once you get to that space of focusing, looking at your language, your focus, and your body, you can recenter yourself into what this is really all about.
Right. We got a couple other that we're going to get to right around the other side of the break, but we're going to take a break. We are on RE360 Radio, KDOW, AM 1220. Give us a call, 1-800-516-1220. If you have questions for Steve, 1-800-516-1220. We'll be back on the other side of the break on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360radio.com. That's RE360radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back. This is Mike D'Ambrosio on RE360 Radio, KDOW, AM 1220. We're talking with Steve Stefanik of In-House Coach. You can look at his website, www.inhousecoach.com, to check out more information about his services and how he helps his clients. And so let's get back into it, okay? We're talking about getting your real estate mindset for success in 2014. In the last segment, we were talking about 7 effective tools to support you through the process. We got a couple other ones that we wanted to finish up on. The next one being enlisting support. So let's talk a little bit about that, Steve. I know, obviously we're talking about a big decision, and oftentimes you can't do it on your own. You need other people around. There's other decision makers. There's other people that are a part of the decision process. So making sure you have that support network is really important.
Yeah, it's a critical thing, and it can stabilize you in the midst of, like I said, a very emotional process. So the different support, you can even bring in a coach if you need it.
Right.
But the most important thing is to get the right realtor. And when I was younger, I went through a career change, and part of the career assessment, I took this tool called the card sort tool, and it really outlined the different professions my skills, experience, and passions led me to. And when I turned over the card that said these are your professions, it said psychologist, it said a coach, a therapist, but the fourth one really kind of shocked me, and it said realtor.
Yeah.
Right. So what that's telling you is that this is a very emotional game, and you have to have someone that can balance you out, right? Because you're going to be all over the place, because it is all about your home. Right. And so having someone that has that ability to listen to what your concerns are and be able to center you in an effective way. So enlisting the right support is critical.
Right.
The next one, though, is to build in a supportive environment. And they kind of sound the same. But, when you're purchasing a house, especially in the climate that we're in right now, where the inventory is still very low.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so low, yeah.
So, a lot of people saying, hey, why would you buy now? You're going to overpay. But if you have to buy, or you have the resources to purchase, why let some of those non-supportive people bring you down? So with anything, you always want to surround yourself with the right people that can take you to where you need to go, right? Your mother used to tell us, or my mother used to tell me, be careful who you surround yourself with, you'll become them. Right? And the same applies to real estate. If you want to be in a great house, you start surrounding yourself with people who have great houses, people who have the right mindset that are going to get you there. There's always challenges in the market. But the people that have the right people around them, the right practices, and the right mindset get things accomplished.
Yeah.
And then lastly, take care of yourself. It's an emotional process, and typically it's coupled with several other big emotional things going on. So basically, you want to take care of yourself, and what I mean by that is, diet, exercise, and sleep. This is a stressful thing. I'm sure you've had some clients that have called you middle of the night, Mike.
Of course, gotta field those calls. Gotta love them,
right? But it's very important that in this stressful time that you take care of yourself. The other one I want to bring up, and it's kind of out of the business realm, but really, believe in the universe. Like, the universe is there to take care of you, or whatever you want to say, God, the universe. But there's a way that if you can start to release some of this anxiety and pressure to the universe and say, my intention is to get a good house, and I know it's going to be delivered in the way I need it.
Right.
Right. There's a tremendous amount of power in that, and a lot of people don't step into that realm, and it's an effective tool to use. Meditation and yoga are great for bringing the pressure off the mind, clearing the mind. And lastly, again, having supportive conversations around you, whether it's with your wife, your children, your friends, people that can kind of recenter you and ground you. So those are the 7 effective tools I think you should use in the process to really make sure your 2014 real estate needs are met.
Right. And I think that, one thing I want to add too is that we're talking today about things that we feel can help you through what sometimes is a stressful process. Now, with that being said, if you do have the right professionals around you, it shouldn't be a nightmare, right?
Correct.
It should be, if everything's explained and everyone's on the same page and understands what's going on, a lot of this stress and everything can be avoided. Just like, this is just like any situation, right? A lot of things can always be avoided, but there's always those certain factors that throw a wrench into the fire and can throw things off at any time. So what you're here today to do is to kind of help guide people to better place themselves for the right decisions in the future, especially in real estate.
Exactly. Yeah, with the right mindset, the right people around you, the right practices, of course, it's going to be successful. Yeah. I was in real estate for about 8 years, and again, I had, as a beginner, we ran into a lot of problems, but then as you get more experience, you can start to set the expectations. You start to see the clients that have some of those challenges, and you can work with them in effective ways to really center them down.
Right.
it's no different than any other challenges we have in life, but because it is one of the top 5 stressors, we want to make sure that that we're in the right position to handle those.
Let's talk about that for a second, the top 5 stressors. So
yeah, there's some studies that have been done that said there's 5 big stressors that you have in your life. One of them is moving. And that's why real estate is kind of challenging, whether you're buying or selling. Right. The second is death of a loved one. The third is job loss. The fourth is divorce. And the fifth, I can't place it right now, but it's
investment or career or anything like that.
Yeah, job loss.
So it's funny that you say that because, all of those reasons are reasons to possibly move, right? So they are the top 5. It's the top 5 reasons, biggest stresses in your life, but it's also reasons that you would move.
Exactly. And so they all come, kind of coupled, and that's why it becomes a big challenge. Like sometimes you lose a job or you get a new job, and that requires a different status for you in the community. And so you want to, bring the house up. Right. So not only you're changing jobs and starting new, but you're trying to get the new house, and it does get complicated. Yeah,
as I'm sure it does with divorce and death, and I mean those are other reasons why you would move, and or good reasons too of marriage and having kids and needing to move up or needing a bigger house. Those are reasons why people would move. So I guess we kind of came to a epiphany here today, is that the top 5 stressors in life are also basically the biggest 5 reasons you would move, buy or sell, essentially.
Essentially, yes, and again, the epiphany is that you're going to be under some challenges in those things, and so how do you make sure you enlist yourself with the right people that take care of you during that challenge?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to wrap everything up on the other side of the break. I'm here with Steve Stefanik of In-House Coach. We're talking about real estate and mindset for success in 2014. I'm glad to have him here. We are live on RE360 Radio, KDOW, AM 1220.
Welcome back to Real Estate 360, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RE360Radio.com. That's RE360Radio.com. Again, your host for today's edition of RE360 Radio, Mike D'Ambrosio.
Welcome back. We are with RE360 Radio, KDOW 1220 AM. We're live in studio today with Steve Stefanik of In-House Coach. We are, hopefully, your real estate mindset is set for 2014.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot today. We covered mental minefields. We covered common anxieties. We covered 7 tools to, help you get through all this. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I think 2014 should be an exciting time, and I'm hoping they'll give you a call and get into the house, and you'll be able to help them through some of these challenges of buying a real estate in today's market.
Yeah, definitely. And I could say too, it's real estate for me. I love what I do, and I love my job, and I think that people that are getting into just know from everything you kind of talked about today, make sure you have a plan. You talk about it with people that are involved in the decision, and everything's going to be okay after that. I think it's really important. It's all about communication. I think just like anything, it's about communication.
That's right.
And that's actually one of the big things you do. Why don't you talk a little bit about your business and how you help people through coaching?
Sure. So I'm an executive and life coach, and what that means is I help people through major life transitions. Really what I'm all about is helping people find their unique power and their purpose in the world in a way that they can show up in their biggest and best. Right? And working with you as an example of that, look at you're on the radio now, and it's fantastic, Mike.
Yeah.
But as I work with people, I run across people that are challenged in 3 big buckets. So if one of these rings to you, you might want to give me a jingle on my phone at 408-355-3193. And the 3 areas that really stand out in the clients that I work with one is out of balance. So it's the work life, right? So work sometimes is consuming them in a way that everything is not working in the other aspects, whether it's family or relationships. And typically it's some of our old patterns of what we think is right, and they just have to be shifted. And it really is not very difficult, but there has to be an openness to get there. And through my coaching, we can get there. The second is burnout. Right, you're burned out in a way that it's having a difficult time getting to work every day. You're having a difficult time, saying, "Hey, this is fun," right? So again, it's all about conversation and how do you really move through those. And my work does effective work there. And finally, you're at capacity. So there's a certain level of business that you're at, or certain stage of development in your career you're at, and you can't seem to plateau, or you can't seem to get to the next plateau.
Right.
And so I'll help people move through those as well.
Okay.
So again, you can reach me at 408-355-3193 or steve@inhousecoach.com. And again, I'd like to thank Mike for this great opportunity. And please give Mike a call if you do have any real estate needs, because he's one of the best.
Thank you, and thanks for coming on. And I think it's apparent how passionate you are about your job and being an executive coach, and it definitely comes through, when you're talking about, what we talked about today. So I think that's great. Weekly question. Okay, so this is the name of the game. Today I will ask you a weekly question. You have the opportunity throughout the week to either email me, mike@re360radio.com, with your answer, or give me a call at 1-800-516-1220 or 408-357-6177 to submit your answer. And then next week I'll announce the winner of a certificate at our sponsor, Giorgio's and FJ&L. Okay, the weekly question is, what is one mental minefield of buying and selling real estate? What is one, all I need is one, mental minefield of buying and selling real estate? So hopefully you get one of those right. You'll be entered into the drawing, and you can win a prize. And we'll keep doing this every week. We have a great 2014 scheduled for you. We got weekly themes going on. Steve's going to be back in a couple of weeks, or probably sometime in February or March. We look forward to having him back. Thank you for listening in today. I'm Mike D'Ambrosio with RE360 Radio. We are on KDOW AM 1220 Monday through Friday, 3 to 4 p.m. Thanks again, everybody, and have a very, very happy New Year.
You've been listening to Real Estate 360 on AM 1220 KDOW. For more information on today's program, visit re360radio.com. That's re360radio.com. AM 1220 KDOW.